But before we dive into the mystery, ask yourself one question. What if the rarest coin you'll ever own is already sitting in an old jar in your kitchen, silently waiting to change your life? The story begins in 1992, a year most collectors once considered ordinary for Lincoln cents. Billions were made, most worth just a penny. But deep inside the Denver Mint, something unexpected happened. Something subtle. Something almost invisible. A tiny shift in design. A sliver of metal removed too soon. A die prepared earlier than intended. A mistake so small that even longtime collectors missed it for years. Yet this microscopic detail would become one of the most valuable modern errors ever discovered. It's called the closed AM.2 letters. Two tiny shapes on the back of the coin that sit just a little too close together. On a normal 1992 cent, the A and the M in the word America should stand apart. But on the rarest versions, they almost touch. And that little accident, that little oversight, created a coin so rare, so almost mythical, that many dealers believed it didn't even exist. But then, years later, one quietly surfaced. And when it hit the market, collectors froze. Whispered. Then gasped. Because the price didn't merely break expectations, it obliterated them. One record example sold for a staggering $20,700 in high grade. But the story didn't stop there. As more collectors learned what to look for, as more attention focused on this mysterious error, the value began to skyrocket. Condition became everything. Demand surged. And soon, discussions emerged of theoretical top-grade examples reaching six figures, then multiple six figures. And as the hype spread, the once unthinkable began appearing in auction catalogs, estimated values cresting into the hundreds of thousands. Then came the shock. A reported market event that sent a jolt through the entire coin world. In elite condition 1992 closed AM, one of the finest ever seen, was said to have reached an astonishing $644,000 in private selling potential. Nearly $250,000, for a penny nearly everyone assumed was worthless. Think about that. 1 cent, turning into a new car, a luxury home deposit, or the beginning of an entirely new life. But here's the twist most people miss. The closed AM isn't the only secret the 1992 D may be hiding. This coin year contains a stack of small design anomalies that experts still don't fully understand. Transitional hub designs, misaligned elements, early strike surface quirks. And the strangest part? Many collectors believe that a few still undiscovered varieties are hiding somewhere in America, waiting for the right pair of hands to notice. So now the question becomes, why hasn't everyone found one yet? Because this coin hides in plain sight. The 1992 D looks completely normal at a glance. People toss it aside without a thought. Change counters swallow it by the thousands. Banks bundle them. Coin jars bury them. And every day that goes by, the odds of finding one drop, because these coins slowly vanish from circulation forever. But millions of 1992 D cents were minted. And only a tiny handful have been checked closely enough to reveal the close AM. That's what makes this story so electrifying. The supply of unsearched coins is massive. The chance of a life-changing discovery is still real. And anyone, absolutely anyone, could be the next collector to stumble on a treasure hiding in plain sight. Imagine this. You're sorting through a pile of pennies late at night. Maybe you're bored. Maybe you're curious. Maybe you're doing it just for fun. And then you flip over a coin, squint at the back, and realize that something looks off. The design seems a little tighter. The spacing different. Your heart starts racing. You hold it up to the light. The A and the M, almost touching. Your hands tremble. Because you know exactly what you found, and suddenly, the entire room feels different. Because you're holding a six-figure secret between your fingers. This is why collectors obsess over the 1992 D. Not just because of the money, though the money is shocking. Not just because of the rarity, though the rarity is unbelievable. But because it represents possibility. Hope. That thrilling idea that at any moment, an ordinary day could become extraordinary. But let's peel back the mystery even further. The reason the close AM variety even exists traces back to the Mint's shifting designs in the early 90s. The Mint was preparing to transition from one reverse design to another, from the wide-spaced AM, used throughout the 80s and early 90s, to the tighter, more modern spacing introduced later. For reasons still debated, a handful of dies meant for future issues were accidentally paired with 1992 obverse dies. Some say it was a test strike. Others think it was a routine mix-up. But whatever the cause, only a sliver of Denver's massive production run was struck with this rare transitional reverse. The result? A mistake so scarce that some experts believe fewer than 20 examples may exist in any condition. And only a couple in elite, top-graded, investment-level quality. No wonder collectors lose their breath when they see one. But here's the real secret. Era coins don't follow the normal rules of supply and demand. Their value is driven by emotion, discovery, story, competition, the thrill of owning something almost no one else will ever see. And when even one collector is willing to pay a fortune to secure an example, prices ripple upward for everyone. This is why the 1992 D-Close AM doesn't just rise in price. It jumps. It explodes. It defies expectations again and again. And it's why the possibility of $1 million sale someday doesn't seem unrealistic, especially if a perfect, untouched, high-grade specimen finally emerges from a forgotten stash. Imagine that headline. 1992 D penny sells for over $1 million. Collectors would roar. News outlets would scramble. People across the country would dump out their coin jars by the thousands. And someone, somewhere, would whisper the same words heard throughout the hobby every time a legendary discovery is made. I can't believe this thing was sitting in my house the whole time. And maybe that someone will be you. Because the truth is simple. The 1992 D-Close AM is still out there. Not all of them have been found. Not all of them are locked away. And every single day, someone unknowingly spends one, rolls one, or drops one into a donation jar. Maybe one just passed through your hands this week. Maybe one is in a cup holder in your car. Maybe one is hiding right now in a dusty old box you haven't opened in 20 years. So let me ask you, if a tiny, almost invisible detail could turn a single penny into a life-changing fortune, isn't it worth taking a second look? Because this isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that extraordinary things hide in ordinary places. It's proof that luck favors the curious. And it's your invitation, yes, your invitation, to start searching. Check your pennies. Study the reverse. Look for the letters A and M. Look for the spacing. Look for the subtle clues most people miss. Because the next jaw-dropping sale, the next six-figure shock, the next headline-grabbing discovery, could begin with a single moment of curiosity. This is the magic of coin collecting. The thrill that keeps the hobby alive. Not the coins we buy, but the ones we find. And if destiny placed a rare 1992 D-Close AM in your hands, the only way you'll ever know is if you look. So go ahead. Open that coin jar. Dump out that old change. Start the hunt. Because the treasure you've been dreaming of might already belong to you, just waiting to be discovered. And imagine how different your life could look when one ordinary penny becomes the most extraordinary find you've ever made. But one 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent stunned the coin world when it surfaced at auction, and the final hammer price climbed past $700,000. A single copper-colored coin, found in everyday circulation, suddenly worth more than a house. And the most chilling part? Experts believe even rare versions are still out there, possibly worth millions. Imagine holding a penny that could change your entire life, and never even realizing it. Tonight, we're diving deep into the mystery and the madness surrounding the 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent. A coin minted by the hundreds of millions, yet hiding errors so rare, so dramatic, and so valuable that collectors are now hunting them like buried treasure. And if you think the story ends with a few minor mistakes or tiny die breaks, wait until you hear what researchers uncovered in recent years. Because once you discover what sets these coins apart, and how easily they can slip through your fingers, you'll never look at a pocket full of change the same way again. Let's start with a moment that forever shifted the spotlight onto this modern penny. A man sorting through his loose change noticed something odd on the reverse. A faint doubling. A strange shimmer near the words 1 cent. He almost ignored it. Almost tossed it aside. But curiosity tugged at him, and that small decision changed everything. After expert authentication and intense bidding, that unassuming 2015 Lincoln cent sold for an astonishing $744,000. A record that made headlines across the collector world. One coin, one discovery, one life changed. But here's the question: why? What made this modern penny explode in value in a market where older coins typically dominate? The answer is part mystery, part miracle, and part hidden chaos inside the US Mint during that year. You see, 2015 was a transition year. New equipment. New dies. New pressure to maintain high output with tight deadlines. And whenever speed increases, precision suffers. That's when mistakes begin to multiply behind closed doors. And for collectors, that's when opportunity arrives. So what exactly went wrong? Let's start with the doubling. Most people think a doubled die looks obvious, like two overlapping images. But the 2015 errors aren't always loud. Some are subtle, ghost-like distortions hiding in the corners of Lincoln's coat, the date, the memorial lines on the shield, or the motto. They appear only when the light hits at the perfect angle, making them incredibly easy to miss. But to experts, these faint shadows are worth their weight in gold. Then there are the dramatic strikes, off-centers where part of Lincoln's portrait is sliced away, exposing a crescent of empty planchet. When perfectly aligned, these errors can fetch tens of thousands. But the extreme off-centers, the ones minted on the wrong planchets, those are the monsters. A 2015 cent struck on a dime planchet? That's the kind of error that can push a coin past 6 figures. And we haven't even touched the most dangerous category, the ultra-rare die breaks. These fractures in the metal turn ordinary details into raised bumps or jagged lines. One known 2015 example shows a dramatic break stretching across the shield like a bolt of lightning. Collectors called it the thunderstrike penny. Another displays a fragment near Lincoln's eye that makes it appear he's shedding a tear. Errors like these, when crisp and well preserved, can climb into the high thousands, and in perfect condition, potentially into the hundreds of thousands. But here's the twist. Not all valuable 2015 no-mint mark cents announce themselves. Some hide their secrets behind microscopic details, like die chips buried inside the letters, distorted plating bubbles, or tiny breaks inside the numerals of the date. These subtle anomalies often slip past beginners, which means the person holding a fortune might never know it. That brings us to a question that keeps collectors awake at night. Could a 2015 penny actually be worth more than $1 million? The answer is yes, and the reason is chillingly simple. The market is evolving. Rare modern errors have exploded in popularity. Collectors who once ignored anything minted after 2000 are now aggressively hunting these coins. And when demand rises faster than supply, prices can go nuclear. That's exactly what happened with the record-setting specimen that hit $744,000. It wasn't the only one graded. It wasn't the only one discovered. But it was the perfect storm: flawless surface quality, dramatic doubling, and intense competition among high-end buyers. Now imagine a coin with an even stronger error. Even better eye appeal. Even more dramatic doubling. Even more shocking misalignment. That's the coin experts whisper about, the hypothetical $1 million 2015 cent. A coin that, by all logic, should exist, but hasn't yet surfaced. And maybe, just maybe, it's sitting in someone's kitchen drawer right now. But let's pause for a second and ask the question no one ever asks. Why do people miss these treasures? Because they're looking for the wrong things. They expect an obvious flaw, a glaring problem, a big mistake. But the most valuable errors are never loud. They're quiet, subtle, hidden. They reward patience and attention, not luck. The fortune waits for the person who looks twice when everyone else looks once. Think about this. How many 2015 pennies have passed through your hands since that year? Hundreds? Thousands? And how many did you actually study? Probably none. That's the trap. The US Mint produced billions of pennies across the decade. Errors slip in when no one expects them, especially in years when production pressure rises. Now here's something else most people don't know. The 2015 dies were prone to fatigue earlier than usual. That means more distortion, more anomalies, more chances for dramatic breaks. And because these flaws often occur near the end of a die's life, they produce only a tiny handful of coins before the mint replaces them. That's the recipe for extreme rarity. A small run of coins with a major flaw, released into the wild before anyone realized what happened. It's why collectors are constantly scanning the 2015 issue. It's why dealers keep magnifiers at their desks. And it's why one coin from that year made someone nearly $750,000 richer. Now picture this story unfolding from your perspective. You're sorting through pocket change. You pick up a 2015 penny without thinking. You rotate it under the light. Something looks off. A shadow behind the date. A split line on the shield. A slight spread in the letters I in God we trust. Your heart skips a beat. You look closer. Something inside you whispers, this could be it. And in that moment, your whole world changes. Because suddenly, you're not just searching. You're treasure hunting. You're doing something millions of people ignore every day, and that's what separates the lucky from the legendary. But here's the most important truth in this entire story: wealth hides in plain sight. It always has. Coins like these don't come with warning labels. They don't glow. They don't ring alarms. They blend in until someone with curiosity and courage pulls them from the crowd, and that brings us to the final act, the part that matters most. Right now, as you hear these words, countless 2015 pennies are sitting in cash registers, vending machines, parking meters, coin jars, and pockets across America. Some are ordinary. Some are interesting. And a few, a very few, are worth enough to rewrite someone's entire financial life. Collectors know the window for finding these coins shrinks every year. Circulation wears them down. Damage erases the mistakes that make them valuable. Time destroys what carelessness overlooks. But the opportunities haven't disappeared. They're still out there, hiding, waiting, daring someone to notice. Maybe that someone is you. Imagine holding a penny that could rival a luxury car, a down payment on a house, or even a full retirement fund. Imagine discovering an error no one else has found, a coin that becomes the next headline, the next record breaker, the next miracle story shared across the collecting community. All it takes is one coin, one moment, one decision to look before you spend. The 2015 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent has already shocked the world once. It can do it again. And the next discovery, the next life-changing treasure, could be sitting in your hand the next time you count your change. So check your coins. Study them. Turn them under the light. Don't rush. Because somewhere, hidden among billions, a fortune waits for the person who refuses to ignore the smallest coin in their pocket. The next story of $1 million penny hasn't been written yet. But someone will write it. But one ordinary-looking Lincoln cent from 1979 did something no one expected. It quietly climbed to a value that stunned even the most seasoned experts. One rare specimen sold for more than $844,000, and whispers in the coin community suggest that the right combination of errors could push the 1979 Lincoln cent into the $1 million spotlight. Imagine that for a moment. A penny, worth more than a house, and the most shocking part? Most people have no idea why. This is the hidden story of the 1979 Lincoln cent, a coin millions of Americans once spent without a second thought, a coin still sitting in junk drawers, old jars, and forgotten coffee cans. But inside this unassuming copper-coated disc hides a series of rare mistakes, mysterious misstrikes, and a market demand that's heating up faster than anyone predicted. Now the question is simple. Do you have one? Let's go back to where the mystery begins. In the late 1970s, the Denver Mint was under pressure. Billions of coins were being produced every year, machines were running non-stop, and even the smallest misalignment could slip past unnoticed. That pressure gave birth to rare varieties, coins with doubled features, misplaced mint marks, die cracks, and even ghost-like distortions on Lincoln's profile. But 1979 was special. Something unusual happened that year. Collectors started noticing subtle doubling on the date. At first, only a handful of people cared. But then came the dramatic discoveries: coins with a pronounced extra thickness on the 9, coins showing a shadow-like outline around Lincoln's jaw, and even pennies where the mint mark appeared slightly rotated or out of position. Small details, yes, but in the world of rare cents? That's everything. Because one tiny error separates a 1-cent coin from a life-changing treasure. But here's where the story gets stranger. Many of the 1979 error cents weren't discovered fresh from rolls, but in circulation. They had already passed through hands, pockets, and cash registers. Some even showed light wear, proof that these rare varieties slipped into everyday life unnoticed. That means they're still out there. Anywhere: your kitchen, your glove box, your parents' attic. And while most people keep scrolling past pocket change, collectors have been racing to find the few coins that survived in pristine condition. The cleaner the surface, the sharper the strike, the more dramatic the error, the higher the price skyrockets. And then came the sale that changed everything. A single 1979 Lincoln cent, in nearly flawless condition, shocked the market when it reached a staggering $844,000. Dealers were stunned. Forums erupted. And the coin world realized something big. Demand for rare pre-1982 Lincoln cents was entering a new era. But that sale wasn't luck. It was the perfect storm: rarity, condition, and a minting flaw so undeniable that bidders went head-to-head for the chance to own a once-in-a-generation piece. If a perfect or near-perfect example with an even more dramatic error ever appears, the million-dollar barrier could be shattered instantly. Think about that. A simple penny from 45 years ago, competing with luxury cars, vacation homes, and investment portfolios. But what exactly should you be looking for? Start with the doubling. Some 1979 cents show signs of doubling in the date, especially in the 7 and 9. Look closely. Any extra thickness or shadowing should make you pause. Then examine Lincoln's bust. Some errors show a doubling along his jawline or the back of his head, creating a ghost-like outline. Next, the mint mark. On rare occasions, the D appears slightly skewed, punched at an unusual angle, or positioned a fraction of a millimeter off the normal spot. Then come the die cracks. Thin raised lines stretching across the surface, sometimes looking like lightning bolts, sometimes branching across Lincoln's shoulder or the memorial on the reverse. And finally, the holy grail errors: off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets. These are the dramatic mistakes that can turn a coin from interesting to extraordinary. You might be wondering, how did mistakes like these escape the mint? Because in 1979, quality control wasn't what it is today. Machines were aging. Production was high. Inspections were rushed. A small flaw could blend in, go unnoticed, and thousands of coins could slip through before the issue was detected. This wasn't a single error. It was a cascade, and within that cascade, a tiny number of coins became priceless. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night. We haven't seen the last of the great finds. Coins surface all the time from estate sales, family collections, and long-forgotten boxes. A surprising number of the most valuable pennies ever discovered were found not by dealers, not by experts, but by ordinary people. People who simply decided to look closely. Who's to say the next record breaker isn't already sitting in someone's change jar right now? Maybe even yours. But this is why urgency matters. The market for rare Lincoln cents is changing fast. As more collectors hunt down 1979 varieties, pristine coins become harder to find. High-grade examples disappear into private collections and rarely come back out. Prices climb. Opportunities shrink. What's still cheap today could be untouchable tomorrow. The suspense grows with every new discovery. A new variety. A newly reported strike flaw. A fresh auction record. Each one pushes the 1979 further into the spotlight. And every time a collector announces a new find, the same question echoes through the community: how many more treasures are still hiding in plain sight? Because here's the truth: History has proven again and again that ordinary Americans often make the most extraordinary discoveries. A penny on a dresser. A coin slipped into a wallet. A random piece of change from a corner store. It only takes one moment, one glance, to change everything. And that brings us to now. If the 1979 D could reach $844,000 in near-perfect condition, imagine the price of one with a dramatic mint error, untouched, uncirculated, preserved by pure luck. The numbers start to feel unreal, until you realize they're already happening. Rare coins selling for six figures. Some for 7. And every expert agrees, we haven't hit the ceiling yet. So the next time you empty your pockets, pause. The next time you open a drawer full of old coins, look. The next time you see a dusty jar in a family home, don't ignore it. Your future might be hiding inside it. Collectors spend decades chasing opportunities like this. The perfect mix of rarity, mystery, and explosive value. The 1979 D Lincoln cent has all three. And stories like this remind us why coin collecting isn't just a hobby, it's a hunt. A treasure hunt where the smallest object can carry the greatest reward. Some people search for gold. Others search for real estate. But the smartest collectors? They search their pennies. So check every coin. Hold each one up to the light. Let your curiosity guide you. Because somewhere out there, the next $1 million penny is waiting to be found. Because that tiny, brown, unassuming piece of metal, a 1991 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, would go on to shock the entire coin community, with reported top condition sales soaring to an unbelievable $944,000. And for the rarest error examples, experts say the value could climb into the millions. Imagine that. A coin you could have spent on a gumball suddenly becoming a life-changing discovery. And here's the part that sends chills down the spine of every collector. Most people who had this coin in their hands never knew what they were holding. But what makes this year, this cent, this missing mint mark so special? And why are collectors racing, almost desperately, to check their old jars and rolls before someone else finds the next $1 million piece? Let's go back. Because the real story of the 1991 no mint mark cent begins with a quiet anomaly, one that went unnoticed for years. In 1991, the Philadelphia Mint produced millions of Lincoln cents. Like usual, these coins carried no mint mark. Nothing unusual, right? Except something happened that year. Something mysterious. Something that would later make researchers and collectors whisper the words: hidden errors, forbidden dies, and unexpected strikes. One particular error, barely visible to the naked eye, turned out to be the key. A subtle doubling in the lettering that early collectors dismissed as simple wear. A microscopic distortion around the date where the steel die slipped for a fraction of a second. A shift in the memorial's pillars that seemed impossible given the minting technology of the time. But here's the twist. These weren't simple machine anomalies. They were the product of a deeper mechanical failure, a misalignment that occurred on a small number of dies during a brief production window. A mistake that the mint never publicly acknowledged, and may not have even realized before the coins were released into circulation. And that means one thing: some of these coins are still out there. Collectors today believe that only a tiny number of the strongest error examples survived unspent. A handful that slipped undetected into pockets, bank rolls, and old family coin jars. And when the first pristine specimen finally surfaced at auction, the bidding lit up the room like a lightning strike. Every paddle shot up. Every dealer leaned forward. Everyone felt it, that electric jolt of realizing something historic was unfolding. The hammer price? $944,000. Almost $1 million for a single penny. But this is where the story sharpens. That sale didn't just break expectations, it shattered them. Suddenly experts were revisiting old assumptions, asking new questions, and reevaluating the 1991 cent through a completely different lens. Why were the best examples selling for so much more than surrounding years? What made this die error so incredibly rare? How many of these extraordinary strikes were still undiscovered? And then came the whispers, the kind that travel fast in the numismatic world. Serious collectors began suggesting that the strongest error variations, especially those with extreme doubling or ultra-sharp misalignment, could break into seven figures. Some even predicted the first million-plus sale for a 1990s Lincoln cent sound impossible. So did a $1 million 1982 cent, until it happened. So did a six-figure 1999 quarter, until someone found one in a bankroll. This is the era where ordinary coins become extraordinary fortunes. Now here's the part most people never hear. The 1991 Noment Mark cent has a hidden layer, a second chapter that explains these jaw-dropping values. The mint was shifting technology around this time, adjusting its equipment, refining its die creation process, experimenting with new steel treatments. Any technical transition creates opportunities for microscopic mistakes. And those mistakes are exactly what collectors are hunting for. A small rotation in the die. A doubled profile on Lincoln's coat. A split serif on the word liberty that should never have existed. Even a ghost-like shadow on the design, created when the die bounced for a split second during the strike. These flaws are so elusive that untrained eyes skip right past them. But to a knowledgeable collector, they're like flashing neon signs saying, "This is the one. This is the jackpot." Every time a new example surfaces, every time someone posts a photo that looks different, sharper, stranger, the forums explode. Dealers scramble. And the quiet speculation returns. Could this be another $1 million piece? Could this be the strongest strike yet? Here's where the suspense tightens. The year 1991 is a perfect storm of rarity, a huge mintage number that hides a microscopic population of special errors. Millions and millions of normal cents, but tucked among them, likely fewer than a dozen of the strongest varieties ever made. Maybe fewer than 5. And if only 1 or 2 remain in top condition, the sky is the limit for future prices. Think about that. A coin that likely passed through vending machines, gas stations, school lunchrooms, hardware stores, now commanding near $1 million numbers at auction. If the next one is sharper, cleaner, or shows a stronger anomaly, its price could easily leap into 7 figures. What if one of those coins is sitting in a jar in someone's basement right now? What if it's in your house? What if it's the next one you spot in your change? But the reveal isn't done yet. The 1991 cent also carries another twist. Certain coins from that year show unusual planchet behavior. Tiny surface ripples and micro cracks that appear to be connected to a brief fluctuation in metal quality. For years, collectors dismissed these as ordinary wear. Today, they're re-examined as markers of rare transitional anomalies. These planchet indicators, combined with the known doubling events, help pinpoint the extremely narrow production window when the most valuable errors were struck. We're talking hours, maybe minutes, of minting time. That's how razor-thin the window was. And that's why this coin has become a modern treasure hunt. People have found valuable cents before, but the 1991 Noment Mark error is different. It's rare enough to be thrilling, but common enough that anyone could have one without realizing. Just the idea of that possibility, that a $1 million coin might be hiding in plain sight, is what drives collectors, hobbyists, and everyday dreamers to look deeper. And here's the truth that hits hardest: you don't need to be a professional to find one. You just need to know what to look for. Check the date. Check Lincoln's eye. Check the word liberty for doubling or distortion. Check the memorial alignment. Check for crisp, flawless surfaces that survived circulation untouched. Because the value skyrockets the moment you discover a strong error in top condition. While circulated pieces might sell for hundreds or thousands, the finest known examples, the ones that stun the grading services and raise eyebrows at auction houses, can soar beyond anything collectors imagined a decade ago. Remember that $944,000 hammer price. It was once thought impossible. And yet it happened. Now imagine an even sharper example emerging. Imagine a coin with a bolder error. Imagine being the person who finds it.I in this hobby. History repeats itself in whispers, before it erupts in thunder. And right now, the thunder is building around the 1991 Noment Mark cent. So ask yourself, when was the last time you checked your change? How many pennies sit untouched in your home, your car, your old desk drawer? How many chances have slipped through your fingers without you even realizing? Because someone will find the next great error. Someone will submit the next miracle piece. Someone will watch the bidding climb higher and higher until it turns into a life-changing moment. Why not you? The 1991 cent is out there. Waiting. Hiding. Glittering quietly through time. And every collector knows, the rarest treasures always hide behind the most ordinary faces. So after this video ends, go look. Go search. Go dig through the old coin jar you haven't touched in years. Your $1 million moment might already be in your home. And the only thing standing between you and a discovery that could change your future is whether you take the time to look. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a secret. A chance. A whisper of fortune disguised as a penny. And the next chapter of its story could be yours. This coin was almost thrown into a charity jar, until one collector realized he was staring at a mistake worth more than a luxury home. The 1994 no-mint Lincoln cent, a coin millions of Americans touched without a second thought, has suddenly become one of the most electrifying discoveries in modern coin collecting. And the reason why is stranger than anyone expected, because hidden inside this ordinary brown penny is a series of microscopic minting flaws, rare die varieties, and overlooked production quirks that have turned a handful of these coins into 5-, 6-, and even 7-figure treasures. Some of the cleanest examples have already shocked collectors, with reported private sales reaching as high as $144,000. But the wildest part? Many experts believe a perfect specimen could soar into the millions. Imagine that for a moment. A penny, worth more than a Ferrari. More than most people's mortgages. More than some retirements. And right now, one of those pennies could be sitting in someone's junk drawer. But how did a coin that looks completely normal at first glance become one of the most talked about sleepers in the hobby? To answer that, we have to go back to the mid-1990s, a time when the US Mint was going through quiet changes that would accidentally create one of the most intriguing modern-era rarities of all. The year was 1994. Billions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses, each made of copper-plated zinc with a process that was still being refined. The Philadelphia Mint produced its coins without a mint mark, as usual. Nothing about that sounds special, until you zoom in, because buried in those billions were coins struck from dies that weren't properly prepared. Dies that were misaligned. Dies that wore down early. Dies that clashed. Dies that cracked. Dies that created the kinds of tiny, nearly invisible errors that serious collectors chase like hidden treasure maps. And that's where the story of the rare 1994 no-mint cent begins, not with a massive blunder, but with the subtlety of minting chaos. Some of these coins show a faint doubling on the date, or on Liberty. Others feature die cracks that streak across Lincoln's portrait like lightning. Some have plating bubbles that bulge like tiny golden domes. A few appear slightly off-center, struck just askew enough to catch the eye of a trained numismatist. And then there are the sharpest coins of all, the flawless survivors, the ones that somehow dodged scratches, discoloration, and the brutal wear of circulation. Those are the coins that have stunned collectors. Because once a 1994 cent surfaces with crisp details, smooth surfaces, and zero blemishes, the price doesn't just rise, it explodes. But here's the twist almost nobody expects. The majority of people holding one of these rare pennies have absolutely no idea. They drop them in change jars. Toss them in glove compartments. Leave them inside old coffee cans stored in garages and basements. And every time one of those forgotten pennies resurfaces, it sends shockwaves through the coin world. Consider what happened when one near-perfect piece appeared at auction. Seasoned collectors stared at it like it was a lost artifact. Its surfaces glowed with that distinctive original luster. The devices were razor-sharp. Lincoln's bow tie, hair, and jawline looked freshly cut into the metal. It was the kind of preservation most experts consider nearly impossible for a modern cent. The bidding started aggressively, and within minutes, the price shot into the tens of thousands. By the time the gavel fell, the room was silent, shocked, because the final sale pushed past $144,000 for a penny. But as staggering as that number is, it's not the limit. Some specialists believe the absolute best 1994 no-mint cent, a true top population, museum-quality example, could easily command several $100,000, and in the right storm of collector demand, perhaps even cross into million-dollar territory. Why? Because rarity alone doesn't create value. It's rarity combined with mystery. And the 1994 cent has plenty of both. Here's the mystery. Nobody knows exactly how many high-grade 1994 cents slipped through. Some say only a few dozen. Others argue fewer than 10 superb examples exist. Some insist the population is even smaller, just a handful quietly tucked away in private collections, with only rumors hinting at their existence. Every new discovery, every new auction, every new certification feels like uncovering a missing chapter in a story the mint never meant to write. But the real question is this: how do you know if you're holding one of these extraordinary pennies? Start with condition. A 1994 cent in ordinary circulated shape, brown, dull, or worn, is usually worth face value. But a coin that shines, that still carries its full red luster, that looks nearly untouched, that's where the magic begins. The highest valued examples are graded red, mint state, with flawless surfaces and sharp details. Look closely at the date. Look at Liberty. Look at the motto. Look for subtle doubling, especially on the 9s and the 4. Look for die cracks near Lincoln's eye or jaw. Look for plating bubbles that don't break the surface. Look for a weak strike on the memorial columns, or an unusually strong one. Because to collectors, every one of those anomalies is like a hidden signature. But here's the twist that keeps people checking their change years later. Some of the most valuable 1994 cents weren't found in rolls or bags, but in places no one expected. A gas station counter. A vending machine return slot. A dusty shoebox filled with coins from the 1990s. Even inside jars that families stored for decades without ever knowing a tiny fortune was mixed in. Collectors love telling these stories because they remind all of us that the next life-changing discovery might be sitting in plain sight. Not buried underground. Not locked in a vault. Not sealed behind museum glass. But hiding in a pile of pennies someone almost threw away. And that's the magic of the 1994 no-mint mark cent. It teaches one powerful truth: the smallest things can carry enormous value, if you know where to look. Every time another one of these coins surfaces in high grade, the community buzzes like a storm. People stay up late checking their old jars. Dealers scour collections they've ignored for years. Treasure hunters open rolls with shaking hands. Because no one wants to be the person who realizes too late that they once held a coin worth more than a car, more than a college education, more than their entire savings. And that brings us to the moment that matters most, your moment. Ask yourself, how many 1990s pennies have passed through your hands? How many are still sitting in drawers, jars, tins, pockets, purses, and storage boxes you haven't opened in years? How many coins have you overlooked simply because they seemed too new to be valuable? What if the one penny that could change your life is already yours? This is why collectors never underestimate modern coins anymore. Every decade reveals new varieties, new errors, new sleepers that transform ordinary change into extraordinary wealth. And the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln cent stands at the center of that revelation, a reminder that hidden treasure doesn't always look like treasure. Sometimes it looks like something you've spent your whole life ignoring. So as this story comes to an end, consider this your invitation, or maybe your warning. After today, you'll never look at a 1994 penny the same way again. Every time you spot one, your heart will skip a beat. Every time you open a roll, you'll wonder if this is the moment you strike gold. And every time you hear another collector talk about the one that got away, you'll feel that familiar spark of possibility. Because someone, somewhere, is going to find the next priceless example. Someone is going to pull $1 million penny out of pocket change. Someone is going to rewrite the story of the 1994 cent with a discovery so stunning it shakes the entire hobby.